Imagine waking up with no bread anywhere on Earth, no toast, no sandwiches, no pizza, no noodles, no cakes. Even beer would almost disappear. One simple food quietly shaped the world around you, but bread was never supposed to exist. For over 99% of human history, nobody farmed wheat. Nobody planted fields. Nobody baked loaves. Humans survived by hunting wild animals and gathering plants. Life was unpredictable. Food could vanish overnight. A successful hunt meant celebration. A failed hunt meant hunger. Then something strange happened. Somewhere around 12,000 years ago, the climate changed. The last ice age slowly came to an end. Massive glaciers retreated. Rainfall patterns shifted. Wild grasses spread across parts of the Middle East. Among them grew a remarkable plant, wild wheat. At first, it looked unimportant, just another grass swaying in the wind. But hidden inside every seed was something extraordinary. Energy, lots of it. Small groups of hunter-gatherers noticed the seeds. They collected them, crushed them with stones, mixed the powder with water, cooked it on hot rocks. The result was nothing like modern bread. It was flat, dense, sometimes bitter, but it filled empty stomachs. And it lasted longer than fresh meat. That changed everything. Archaeologists discovered evidence of these early bread-like foods dating back more than 14,000 years. That means humans were making bread thousands of years before farming even existed. The discovery surprised scientists. Researchers including Amaia Arranz-Otaegui found ancient charred bread remains in Jordan. The evidence suggested something unexpected. Bread came first. Agriculture came later. That raises an incredible question. If people already knew how to make bread, why did they suddenly begin farming? The answer may have changed human history forever. Wild wheat was useful, but collecting it was painfully slow. Families had to travel across huge areas searching for enough seeds. One season could provide abundance. The next could bring almost nothing. Some people began returning to places where wheat naturally grew. They protected those areas. They removed competing plants. Without realizing it, they were changing nature. Generation after generation, humans unknowingly selected wheat with larger seeds. Plants slowly changed. People changed with them. This relationship became one of history's greatest partnerships, or perhaps one of history's greatest traps. Before farming, humans moved with the seasons. They followed animals, they explored forests, they crossed rivers, they carried only what they needed. Now something was different. Fields demanded attention. Seeds had to be planted, weeds had to be removed, harvests had to be protected. People could no longer wander freely. For the first time, humans began staying in one place. Villages appeared, then larger villages, then towns. The world would never look the same again. At first, permanent villages seemed like a brilliant idea. Food became easier to predict. Families could store grain for months. Children no longer had to travel long distances every season. Life appeared more stable, but stability came with a hidden cost. Living close together changed everything. Disease spread faster. Waste accumulated. Clean water became harder to protect. New illnesses began moving through growing communities. The same fields that fed people also demanded endless labor. Planting, watering, harvesting, grinding grain by hand, day after day, year after year. Anthropologists have found evidence that early farmers often worked harder than the hunter-gatherers before them. Their skeletons tell the story. More worn joints, more damaged backs, more repetitive stress injuries. Bread made food more reliable, but it also chained many people to the land. So why didn't they simply return to hunting? Because farming created something hunting never could: surplus. For the first time, a community could produce more food than it immediately needed. Extra grain could be stored, shared, traded, or taxed. That single change transformed human society. Not everyone needed to grow food anymore. Some people became potters, others became builders. Metal workers appeared. Merchants traveled between settlements. Priests organized rituals. Leaders organized labor. Entire professions were born because grain allowed someone else to feed them. This is where bread stopped being food. It became power. Control over grain meant control over people. Ancient rulers quickly understood this. Large storehouses appeared across early civilizations. Keeping grain safe meant surviving bad harvests. It also meant deciding who received food during difficult years. Food became influence. Influence became authority. Authority became government. Could civilization have formed without grain? Many historians believe cereal agriculture made large cities possible. Without reliable harvests, supporting thousands of people in one place would have been nearly impossible. Around 3000 BC, great civilizations civilizations flourished beside fertile rivers: the Nile, the Tigris, the Euphrates. These rivers fed enormous fields of wheat and barley. The harvests supported millions of meals. Those meals supported armies, temples, palaces, libraries, monuments. The pyramids were not built only with stone. They were built with bread. Workers needed enormous amounts of food every day. Grain fed the labor force that reshaped landscapes. In many ancient cultures, bread became more than nourishment. It became a symbol. Some societies used bread in religious ceremonies. Others paid workers with grain. Even the earliest forms of money often reflected the value of stored food. A loaf of bread represented security. A full granary represented survival. But another revolution was quietly taking place. Bread itself was changing. At some point, someone accidentally left wet dough sitting too long. Wild yeast floating through the air settled onto its surface. Tiny microorganisms began feeding on the dough. They released carbon dioxide. The dough expanded. Instead of throwing it away, someone baked it. The result was lighter, softer, more flavorful. Leavened bread had been born by accident. One invisible fungus changed the future of food. People had no idea why it worked. They only knew it tasted better. For thousands of years, bakers carefully saved pieces of fermented dough to start the next batch. Long before microscopes existed, humans were partnering with microbes without even knowing they were there. The smallest living organisms were helping build civilizations. And the story was only getting stranger. For thousands of years, bread remained one of humanity's most important foods. But not all bread was equal. The rich often ate soft, finely sifted white bread. The poor survived on darker, coarser loaves made with bran and other grains. A single loaf could reveal your place in society. Food had become a social language. Then came another turning point. The Industrial Revolution transformed bread again. Steam-powered mills could grind grain faster than ever before. Factories produced flour in enormous quantities. Bakeries expanded. Cities grew. Fresh bread became available to millions of people every day. What once required hours of grinding by hand could now happen in minutes. Technology had accelerated one of humanity's oldest inventions. Science soon followed. In the 19th century, researchers such as Louis Pasteur revealed that yeast was alive. The mysterious force that made dough rise was no longer magic. It was biology. Tiny single-celled fungi were transforming sugar into carbon dioxide and alcohol. Every loaf carried out the same microscopic process. Every bakery became a living laboratory. Today, bread exists in thousands of forms: flatbreads, sourdough, baguettes, bagels, naan, rye bread, whole wheat. Each one tells a story about climate, culture, migration, and survival. Different civilizations solved the same problem in different ways. How do you turn a tiny seed into enough food to feed a family? The answers shaped languages, religions, trade routes, even wars. Entire empires fought over fertile farmland. Control the grain, and you could often control the future. Yet bread also carries a warning. Agriculture allowed civilization to flourish, but it also tied humanity to harvests that could fail. A single drought, a devastating flood, or a crop disease could bring famine across entire nations. History is filled with societies that rose with successful harvests and struggled when those harvests disappeared. Even now, global food systems depend heavily on a handful of cereal crops. Wheat remains one of the most widely grown plants on Earth. Billions of people still rely on it every single day. That dependence began with people gathering wild grass seeds thousands of years ago. Think about that for a moment. A plant changed an animal. Humans believed they had domesticated wheat, but the historian Yuval Noah Harari proposed a provocative reversal. Perhaps wheat domesticated us. It convinced us to clear forests, build villages, work fields, raise families in one place, and organize entire civilizations around its growing season. Whether you fully accept that idea or not, it forces an uncomfortable question. Who was really serving whom? We often imagine history being shaped by kings, generals, inventors, great battles, but sometimes the greatest revolutions begin with something so ordinary that we barely notice it. A handful of seeds, a stone grinder, a warm fire, a simple loaf of bread. The next time you pick up a slice, remember this: you're not just holding food, you're holding the reason cities exist. You're holding the foundation of governments. You're holding thousands of years of human cooperation, struggle, discovery, and survival. Bread did not simply feed civilization. In many ways, it baked civilization itself.